I stared at the text message on my phone, reading it 3 times before my brain could process what it actually said. Get out of here if you want to live. The sender was Dale Winters, my neighbor from apartment 3B. We'd exchanged numbers last month after a package mix-up, but we weren't exactly friends. Dale was a quiet guy in his late 40s who worked from home doing something with computer security. We'd maybe had 5 actual conversations in the 2 years I'd lived in the building. I glanced at the timestamp. The message had come through 7 minutes ago while I was in the shower. I looked around my apartment, the same messy 1-bedroom I'd occupied since moving to the city. My laptop sat open on the coffee table, surrounded by empty coffee mugs and takeout containers. Everything looked perfectly normal on this Saturday afternoon. My phone buzzed again. I mean it. Leave now. Don't take anything. Just go. My heart started hammering. This wasn't a joke. Dale didn't joke around. I'd never even seen him smile, let alone pull a prank. What's happening? I typed back with shaking fingers. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Can't explain. Building isn't safe. Go. I stood up, my wet hair dripping onto my shoulders. Through my window, I could see the street below, the usual Saturday afternoon scene. People walking dogs, a couple unloading groceries from their car, someone jogging past, nothing unusual. But Dale's messages had an urgency that made my skin prickle. I grabbed my keys and wallet from the counter, shoved my feet into sneakers without untying them, and headed for the door. My apartment was on the 4th floor. Dale's was 1 floor below. The hallway was empty and quiet. I could hear a TV playing behind one door, someone's music from another. I moved quickly to the stairwell, my footsteps echoing in the concrete space as I descended. When I reached the 3rd floor, I paused at the door to the hallway. Should I check on Dale? Make sure he was okay? Before I could decide, the stairwell door below me crashed open. I jumped back as a man in a dark suit practically flew up the stairs. He wasn't running exactly, but moving with purpose. His eyes locked onto me for a split second as he passed, cold, calculating eyes that sent ice through my veins. He continued up toward the 4th floor. My floor. I didn't wait to see more. I rushed down the remaining flights and burst out onto the ground floor, my heart racing. The lobby was empty except for Mrs. Chen, who was checking her mailbox. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked, looking concerned. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I managed, though my voice came out strained. "Have you seen Dale? From 3B?" "Mr. Winters? No, I haven't seen him today." I pushed through the front door and into the afternoon sunlight, gulping fresh air. My phone buzzed again. "Good. Stay away. Don't come back for at least 2 hours. We'll explain later." "Dale, what the hell is going on?" I texted back. No response. I stood on the sidewalk, feeling absurd and terrified at the same time. What was I supposed to do? Call the police? And tell them what? That my neighbor sent me a cryptic text message and some guy in a suit looked at me weird? I walked to the corner coffee shop, my usual weekend hangout, and ordered a latte I didn't want. My hands were still shaking as I found a seat by the window where I could see my building's entrance. 20 minutes passed, then 30. I watched people come and go from the building, all familiar faces. Nothing seemed amiss. At 45 minutes, a black SUV pulled up in front of the building. 2 men in suits got out and went inside. They looked like federal agents or lawyers or something official. My stomach dropped. 10 minutes later, they emerged with someone between them. Dale. He wasn't in handcuffs, but they were clearly escorting him. His face was expressionless, but even from a distance, I could see tension in his shoulders. As they guided him toward the SUV, his eyes swept the street. For just a moment, they landed on the coffee shop window. I couldn't tell if he saw me, but I swear he gave the tiniest nod before ducking into the vehicle. The SUV drove away, and I sat frozen in my chair. Part 2. The Discovery. I didn't go back to my apartment for 3 hours. When I finally did, I approached the building like it might explode. Everything looked normal. Mrs. Chen was gone. A couple of kids were playing on the front steps. Music drifted from an open window on the second floor. I took the stairs slowly, listening at each landing. When I reached the fourth floor, I crept down the hallway to my door. It was closed, just as I'd left it. The lock showed no signs of tampering. Inside, nothing seemed disturbed. My laptop was still on the coffee table, wallet still where I'd dropped it, spare cash still in the jar on my bookshelf. If someone had broken in, they hadn't taken anything, but something felt different. There was a smell, just a hint of cologne or aftershave that wasn't mine. Someone had been here. I checked every room, every closet, looking for what I didn't know. Everything appeared untouched. It wasn't until I was putting away the jacket I'd grabbed on my way out that I noticed something in the pocket. A flash drive. It was small, black, unmarked. I'd never seen it before. I definitely hadn't put it there. My mind raced back through the day. I'd worn this jacket last night when I'd taken out the trash. The jacket had been hanging by the door all morning. Dale could have slipped it into the pocket when had Dale been in my apartment? I thought harder. 2 weeks ago, he'd helped me carry up some heavy boxes from a furniture delivery. We'd had a beer together afterward. Unusual for him. I'd thought he was just being neighborly. Had he planted the drive then? Or maybe yesterday when I saw him in the hallway and we'd chatted briefly while I was unlocking my door. I held the drive up to the light, as if that would reveal its secrets. Every instinct told me to plug it into my computer and see what was on it. But Dale worked in computer security. If he'd hidden data on this drive and then gotten arrested, or whatever had just happened, this thing might be dangerous. My phone buzzed, making me jump. Destroy the drive. Unknown number. Who is this? Just do it. Smash it, burn it, doesn't matter. But don't look at it. Dale? Can't talk, please. Trust me. Destroy it now. I looked at the flash drive in my palm, then at my laptop sitting innocently on the coffee table. The temptation to plug it in was overwhelming. This was clearly important enough that men in suits had taken Dale away. What could be on it? Government secrets, corporate espionage, classified information. Why did you give this to me? I texted back. 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before the response came. Insurance. But things changed. They know about you now. Get rid of it. They know about me? What does that mean? It means you're in danger if you keep it. Please. I sat down hard on my couch, the flash drive feeling like it weighed 10 pounds in my hand. Dale was trying to protect me, that much was clear. But protect me from what? And by giving me this thing in the first place, hadn't he already dragged me into whatever this was? My journalistic instincts were screaming. I worked as a freelance writer, mostly doing corporate blog posts and the occasional human interest piece for local publications. It wasn't glamorous work, but I'd gotten into it because I'd wanted to uncover truths, to tell important stories. And now I literally held a potential story in my hand. But this wasn't some feel-good piece about a neighborhood garden or an exposé on restaurant health code violations. Dale was scared, really scared, and he was trying to keep me safe. I made my decision. I took the flash drive to my kitchen sink and grabbed a hammer from the utility drawer. With 3 solid strikes, I shattered the drive into pieces. Then, I swept the fragments into a plastic bag, took them outside, and threw them in a dumpster 3 blocks away. When I got back to my apartment, I texted the unknown number. It's done. Thank you. I'm sorry for involving you. Are you okay? Where are you? Better if you don't know. Stay safe. And that was the last message I received. Part 3. Questions. For the next week, I tried to return to normal life. I wrote articles about sustainable fashion and the city's new bike lanes. I went to the coffee shop, ran errands, avoided thinking about Dale and mysterious flash drives and men in suits. But normal was impossible. Every time I entered my building, I looked over my shoulder. Every stranger on the street felt like a potential threat. I kept expecting someone to knock on my door with questions I couldn't answer. Dale's apartment remained empty. I knew because I checked. I stood outside 3B and listened, knocked softly, Even tried the doorknob once. Nothing. The apartment was silent and locked. Mrs. Chen told me she'd heard he'd moved out suddenly. "Family emergency, I think," she said, though she didn't sound convinced. "Very sudden. Didn't even say goodbye." Other neighbors had different theories. The couple in 2A thought he'd gotten a job overseas. Someone else heard he'd been evicted for running a business from his apartment. Normal explanations for an abnormal situation. Only I knew different. Only I had received those warning texts. I tried to research Dale online, but his digital footprint was almost non-existent. No social media profiles, no mentions in news articles. His LinkedIn was bare bones, just a name and information security consultant, with no details. For someone who worked with computers, he'd done an impressive job of staying invisible. The not knowing ate at me. What had been on that flash drive? Why had Dale given it to me? Who were those men who took him away? And most troubling of all, Dale had said they knew about me now. Who were they? And what did they know? I found myself jumping at every unexpected sound, scrutinizing every car that parked on our street for too long. I varied my routines, took different routes to the coffee shop, became hyper-aware of my surroundings in a way that felt both paranoid and necessary. 10 days after Dale's disappearance, something happened that confirmed my fears weren't unfounded. I was at the coffee shop, working on an article about local farmers' markets, when a woman sat down across from me. She was in her 30s, professionally dressed, with short dark hair and an easy smile. "Excuse me," she said. "You're Emma Rodriguez, right? The writer?" I looked up, immediately wary. "Yes?" "I loved your piece in the Tribune last month, the one about the community center. Really well done." "Thanks." I didn't remember writing anything for the Tribune last month. I hadn't published anything there in over a year. "I'm thinking of hiring a writer for some corporate work," she continued. "Would you have time to chat about a potential project?" Everything about this felt wrong. The approach was too smooth, too practiced, and she'd gotten basic facts about my work incorrect. "I'm pretty booked right now," I said carefully. "But you can email me. My contact info is on my website." "Of course." She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. "One more thing. Do you still live in the building on Maple Street? The one with the green awnings?" My blood went cold. That was too specific, too personal for a stranger to know. "Why do you ask?" "Oh, I have a friend who's looking for an apartment in that neighborhood. Thought you might know if there are any vacancies." "You'd have to contact the building management," I said, closing my laptop. "I really need to get going." "Sure, of course. Here's my card." She slid a business card across the table. It was plain white with just a name, Jennifer Mitchell, and an email address. No company, no title, no phone number. I took it without looking at her and walked out of the coffee shop, resisting the urge to run. My heart was pounding as I headed in the opposite direction from my apartment, taking a circuitous route and checking constantly to see if I was being followed. That night, I barely slept. I kept the lights off and watched the street from my window, looking for suspicious cars or people. Around 2 a.m., I saw a dark sedan park across the street. It sat there for 20 minutes, then drove away. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe that woman really was just a potential client who'd done some basic research on me. Maybe the car was just someone visiting a friend. But Dale's warning kept echoing in my mind. They know about you now. Part 4. The Call. 3 days after the coffee shop encounter, my phone rang at 6 a.m., unknown number. I answered, my throat tight. "Hello?" "Don't say my name." Dale's voice was quiet, strained. "Just listen." "Are you—" I said listen. I don't have much time. "Did anyone approach you recently? Anyone you didn't know?" "A woman at the coffee shop. She asked weird questions." I heard him curse softly. Okay, this is bad, but we can work with it. Did you tell her anything?" "No, I left." "Who is she?" "Doesn't matter." What matters is that you're on their radar now, which means you need to be smart. Don't go to the police. Don't tell anyone about this call. Just act normal and they'll probably move on. Probably? My voice rose. Dale, what the hell is going on? Who are these people? There was a long pause. I could hear traffic noise in the background, wherever he was. I can't tell you everything, he finally said. But I can tell you this. I worked for some people who do things that aren't exactly legal. I found out about something they're planning. Something bad. I tried to get evidence out, tried to get it to someone who could stop them. That flash drive it was my backup plan. I thought if I gave it to someone normal, someone not involved, it would be safe. I was wrong. I'm sorry. What are they planning? I asked. Dale, if it's something bad, something dangerous, you destroyed the drive. That's good. That means you can't help them or hurt them, which means they'll leave you alone. Probably. Stop saying probably. I mean it, Emma. Just be careful. Vary your routines. Don't trust anyone who seems too interested in you. And for God's sake, don't go looking for answers. But the line went dead. I tried calling back, but the number rang without answer. I sent a text, but it never showed as delivered. Dale was gone again, leaving me with more questions than answers. Part 5. The Watcher. I tried to follow Dale's advice. I went about my life, met my deadlines, acted normal. But normal felt like a costume I was wearing, ill-fitting and uncomfortable. The woman from the coffee shop, Jennifer Mitchell, or whatever her real name was, didn't approach me again. But I saw her, or I thought I did, a flash of dark hair in a crowd. A woman in professional attire sitting in a car down the street. Maybe it was her. Maybe it was just paranoia making me see threats everywhere. 2 weeks after Dale's phone call, I got a new assignment. A tech magazine wanted a piece on cybersecurity trends, and they'd specifically requested me. The editor said I came highly recommended, though she wouldn't say by whom. I almost turned it down. But I needed the money, and more than that, I needed to understand. If Dale had worked in information security, if he'd discovered something about cybercriminals or hackers or whatever, maybe researching the field would help me figure out what he'd been involved in. I started interviewing experts, security consultants, ethical hackers, IT professionals. I learned about data breaches and ransomware and digital espionage. And the more I learned, the more frightened I became. Because I realized how easy it was for people to disappear in the digital age. How someone could steal your identity, drain your accounts, destroy your life with just a few keystrokes. How entire networks of criminals operated in the shadows, moving money and information with impunity. Had Dale been part of something like that? Had he been a criminal himself? Or had he been trying to stop criminals? During one interview, I spoke with a former FBI agent who specialized in cybercrime. I asked him, hypothetically, what would happen if someone discovered evidence of a major digital crime ring? Depends on the evidence and who's involved, he said. If we're talking organized crime or nation-state actors, it gets complicated. These organizations have resources. They can make problems disappear, and I don't just mean digital problems. What do you mean? I asked, though I already knew. I mean people, witnesses, whistleblowers. If someone knows too much and is seen as a threat, these groups don't mess around. He leaned forward. This is hypothetical, right? You're not in any actual trouble? Of course not, I lied. Just trying to understand the landscape. But his words haunted me. Dale had said he found out about something they were planning. He'd tried to get evidence out, and now he was in hiding, and I was being watched. What exactly had been on that flash drive, and had I made a terrible mistake by destroying it? Part 6. The Package. 4 weeks after Dale's disappearance, a package arrived at my door. It was a plain manila envelope, no return address, my name and apartment number written in block letters. Inside was a burner phone and a note written in the same block letters. Turn on at 8 p.m. tonight. Answer when it rings. Come alone to the address I give you. This is your only chance to understand. I held the phone like it might explode. This was insane. Meeting a stranger at an unknown location based on an anonymous note? That was how people ended up on true crime podcasts. But it was also possibly from Dale. And if there was any chance of getting real answers, of understanding what I'd been dragged into. At 7:45 p.m., I put the phone in my pocket and left my apartment. I didn't turn it on yet. First, I needed to take precautions. I went to a busy bar 3 blocks away and sat where I could see the door. At exactly 8 p.m., I powered on the phone. It rang within seconds. Hello? Good. You came. It wasn't Dale's voice. This was a woman, probably middle-aged, with a slight accent I couldn't place. Are you alone? Yes. Go to 445 Industrial Boulevard. It's a warehouse in the Riverside district. Be there in exactly 30 minutes. Come to the south entrance. It will be unlocked. Wait, who are you? Why should I? Because Dale is in serious danger, and you're the only person who can help him now. 30 minutes. She hung up. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. This was a trap. It had to be. Someone was luring me to an isolated location under false pretenses. But what if it wasn't? What if Dale really was in danger? I made a compromise with my fear. I took out my regular phone and composed an email to my sister, scheduled to send in 2 hours if I didn't cancel it. In it, I explained everything. Dale's warning, the flash drive, the woman at the coffee shop, this meeting. If something happened to me, at least someone would know. Then I called a ride share to the address. Industrial Boulevard was exactly as sketchy as it sounded. The warehouse district was mostly abandoned, with only a few functioning businesses scattered among decaying buildings. Number 445 was a 3-story structure with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. The south entrance was a metal door, slightly ajar. I pushed it open and stepped into darkness. Hello? My voice echoed in the empty space. Lights flickered on, battery-powered work lights that illuminated a section of the warehouse. In the center of the pool of light stood a woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore jeans and a jacket, looking more like someone's mom than a mysterious caller. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know this is all very dramatic and probably terrifying, but I needed to be sure you weren't followed." "Who are you?" "My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a journalist, investigative reporter. I've been working on a story about a cyber warfare contractor called Obsidian Systems. Dale was one of my sources." I felt my knees go weak. "Is he okay?" "He's alive, if that's what you're asking. But he's not okay. None of us are." She gestured to a pair of folding chairs. "Please sit. I'll explain everything." Part 7. The Truth. I sat, though every instinct told me to run. Sarah remained standing, pacing slightly as she spoke. "Obsidian Systems is officially a legitimate cybersecurity firm," she began. "They contract with governments and corporations, supposedly to protect against digital threats, but that's just the surface. Underneath, they're running something much darker, a division that develops tools for surveillance, disruption, and information warfare, not for defense, for offense. Like hacking? Like cyber weapons, tools that can take down power grids, infiltrate hospital systems, manipulate financial markets. They sell these tools to whoever pays. Foreign governments, corporate clients, criminal organizations. They don't care who uses them or why." I thought about what I'd learned researching my article. That can't be legal. It's not, but Obsidian is careful. They operate through shell companies and encrypted networks. They have lawyers and lobbyists who muddy the waters. And they have connections, people in law enforcement, government, the intelligence community, who either look the other way or actively protect them. "And Dale worked for them?" Sarah nodded. "He was a senior analyst. He didn't know what he was getting into when he took the job. It seemed legitimate at first. By the time he realized what Obsidian really was, he was in too deep. They make their employees sign NDAs with teeth, and they monitor everyone constantly. Leaving isn't simple." "But he did leave. He tried to expose them." "Not exactly." Sarah stopped pacing and looked at me directly. Dale discovered something specific, a plan Obsidian had developed for a client. I can't tell you all the details, but it involved a coordinated attack on critical infrastructure in 3 different countries, the kind of thing that could cause mass casualties, economic collapse, political chaos, and it was going to happen within the next 6 months. My stomach lurched. Jesus. Dale tried to go through proper channels at first. He reached out to his supervisors, thinking maybe they didn't know what was being planned. But they knew. Of course they knew. They told him to drop it or face consequences. So he came to you? Eventually. After several sleepless nights, I imagine. He contacted me because I'd written an exposé on a different defense contractor years ago. He thought I might be able to help. We met in secret several times. He was scared, terrified, really. But he knew he had to do something. The flash drive, I said. That's what was on it? Evidence of this plan? Sarah nodded. Complete documentation, contracts, technical specifications, communications between Obsidian and their client. Everything needed to prove what they were planning and stop it. Dale made several copies, one for me, one for another journalist, one for himself, and one that he hid with me. He thought if he distributed the evidence widely enough, Obsidian couldn't stop all of us. He was wrong. They have more reach than we anticipated. I felt sick. What happened to the other copies? The other journalist disappeared. His house burned down with his computers inside. Officially an electrical fire. I still have my copy, but I've been in hiding for 3 weeks. Every attempt I've made to publish has been blocked. My usual outlets won't touch it, citing legal concerns. The few editors brave enough to consider it have been threatened or bought off. And Dale? Obsidian grabbed him before he could go public. Those men you saw weren't federal agents. They were private security working for Obsidian. As far as I know, they're holding him somewhere, probably trying to figure out how many copies of the evidence exist and who has them. The warehouse suddenly felt very cold. They know about me. That woman who approached me, Jennifer Mitchell, not her real name. She's a contractor who does cleanup work for Obsidian. Intimidation, surveillance, worse. The fact that she made direct contact means they were testing you, trying to figure out how much you know. But I don't know anything. I destroyed the flash drive. I told Dale I destroyed it. I know. That's probably why you're still free. But there's a problem. Sarah pulled out a tablet and turned it toward me. On the screen was a photo of a man in his 60s with distinguished gray hair. This is Marcus Valerian. He founded Obsidian Systems and runs the illegal operations. He's paranoid and thorough. He doesn't believe in loose ends. Meaning? Meaning even if you don't have the evidence anymore, you're still a liability. You know Dale. You know something was on that drive, even if you don't know what. Eventually, Valerian will decide it's safer to eliminate that liability than to trust you'll stay quiet. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the concrete floor. So what am I supposed to do? Just wait for someone to show up and kill me? No. Sarah's voice was firm. You're going to help me save Dale and bring down Obsidian. How? You just said every attempt to publish has failed. What can I possibly do? We're going to force their hand, Sarah said. Make them expose themselves in a way they can't cover up. Part 8. The Plan. Sarah's plan was audacious and terrifying in equal measure. Obsidian's strength is secrecy, she explained. They operate in the shadows, using legal threats and intimidation to keep people quiet. But they can't threaten everyone. What we need is to make the story so public, so dramatic, that they can't suppress it. How? There's a tech conference happening in the city next week, Tech Future Summit. It's huge, with thousands of attendees and extensive media coverage. Marcus Valerian is scheduled to give the keynote address about the future of cybersecurity. Ironic, right? I saw where she was going. You want to disrupt his keynote. More than disrupt, I want to use it as a platform to expose Obsidian. If we can get the evidence in front of that audience, live stream to thousands of viewers, Obsidian won't be able to contain it. The cat will be out of the bag. They'll have security. They'll never let you near that stage. which is why I need your help. Sarah pulled up a website on her tablet showing the conference schedule. Tech Future is inviting press and content creators to participate. You're a published writer with bylines in legitimate outlets. You can get press credentials. And then what? Walk up on stage and start making accusations? Not accusations, evidence. I've prepared a video presentation, 15 minutes of undeniable proof of what Obsidian is planning. Corporate documents, internal emails, technical specifications for the attack. It's all there, all verified. All we need is someone to play it during Valerian's keynote. That's insane. Security will stop us the moment we try. Not if we're smart about it. Sarah smiled grimly. The keynote uses a specific AV system that the conference provides. I've been studying their setup. There's a window between when the technicians do their final check and when the presentation starts. That's when you'd load the video file. Me? You're press. You have a reason to be backstage. My face is probably already flagged in Obsidian Systems, but you're relatively unknown. As long as you act like you belong, security won't question you. I shook my head. This is crazy. Even if we pull it off, Obsidian will know it was us. They'll come after us. They're already coming after us. At least this way, we have a chance of stopping them and saving Dale. Speaking of Dale, where is he? Sarah hesitated. I'm not certain, but I have reason to believe he's being held in an Obsidian facility about 40 miles north of the city. If we expose them at the conference, create enough chaos and public scrutiny, they won't be able to just disappear him. They'll have to release him or face even more questions. I paced the warehouse floor, my mind spinning. This was beyond anything I'd ever imagined getting involved in. I wrote puff pieces about urban farming and small business profiles. I wasn't an investigative journalist. I definitely wasn't a whistleblower taking on dangerous corporate criminals. But Dale had tried to protect me. He'd warned me, tried to keep me safe, even when doing so put him at greater risk. And now he was being held prisoner somewhere because he'd tried to do the right thing. Could I really walk away and leave him to face Obsidian alone? If I do this, I said slowly, I need to know everything. No more secrets. What exactly is on that video? Sarah spent the next hour walking me through every detail of Obsidian's plan. It was worse than I'd imagined. A coordinated cyber attack designed to create chaos that a political faction could exploit. Power outages, disrupted communications, manipulated financial systems. The client wasn't a rogue nation or terrorist group. It was a group of extremists within a supposedly friendly government planning a coup. If this attack succeeds, Sarah said, thousands could die in the resulting chaos, maybe more, and Obsidian will get paid handsomely for enabling it. By the time she finished, I felt sick, but I also felt something else, a clarity of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Okay, I said, I'll do it. Tell me what I need to do. Part 9. Preparation. The next 5 days were the longest of my life. Sarah set me up with a secure communication method, encrypted messaging through an app that deleted everything after it was read. We met twice more in different locations to go over the plan. She gave me the video file on a USB drive that looked exactly like the drives the conference tech team used. Memorize the layout, she instructed, showing me floor plans of the conference center. You need to know exactly where you're going and how to get out quickly. I applied for press credentials using my real name and legitimate writing samples. To my surprise, I was approved within 2 days. Either the conference organizers did minimal vetting, or my profile as a freelance writer was bland enough not to raise flags. 3 days before the conference, I received a message from an unknown number. My heart stopped when I opened it. Don't do it. They're watching. -D Dale. Somehow he'd gotten word of our plan. I showed Sarah the message. She frowned but wasn't surprised. Obsidian probably monitors all major tech events. They may have picked up chatter about the conference and put 2 and 2 together, or Dale somehow got access to communication and is trying to warn you. Maybe we should call it off. And let Obsidian's plan proceed? Let Dale stay imprisoned? No. We're going ahead. Just be extra careful. The night before the conference, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, running through every step of the plan, imagining everything that could go wrong. Security stopping me, the video not loading, Valerian recognizing me from Obsidian's surveillance. Or worse, something happening to Sarah, leaving me alone to face this. At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and made coffee. I sat by my window, watching the empty street below, and thought about how I'd gotten here. 4 weeks ago, I'd been living a simple, unremarkable life. Now I was about to become either a hero or a cautionary tale. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Remember, confidence is key. Act like you belong, and people will believe you do. See you tomorrow. I sent back a thumbs up, though my hands were shaking. Part 10. The Conference. The Tech Future Summit was held in the city's largest convention center, a gleaming glass and steel building in the downtown district. I arrived early, my press badge clipped to my jacket, my laptop bag containing the USB drive heavy on my shoulder. The main hall was already filling with attendees, tech entrepreneurs, corporate executives, eager students, and journalists. Enormous screens showed the day's schedule. Marcus Valerian's keynote was set for 10 a.m. in the grand ballroom. I checked in at the press desk, where a bored volunteer scanned my badge and handed me a welcome packet. No alarms, no security rushing to stop me. Just a normal conference check-in. So far, so good. Sarah was somewhere in the building, though I couldn't see her. The plan was for us not to make contact, unless absolutely necessary. She'd be monitoring from the public areas, ready to create a diversion if needed. I spent an hour wandering the exhibition floor, trying to look like a journalist scoping out stories. I interviewed a few startup founders, took notes, acted natural all the while. I kept glancing at the time. At 9:15 a.m., I made my way toward the grand ballroom. The keynote wasn't open yet, but staff were setting up, and a few press members were already gathering outside, hoping for good seats. I showed my press badge to the security guard at the side entrance. Tech press, I said confidently, just checking out the AV setup for my coverage. He waved me through without a second glance. Backstage was organized chaos. Tech crews were testing microphones and adjusting lights. A coordinator was reviewing notes on a tablet. At the center of it all was the podium with its massive screens on either side. And there, near the AV control booth, was exactly what Sarah had described. A laptop connected to the system, used to load presentation files. A technician was working at it, clicking through menus. I hung back, pretending to check my phone, waiting for him to finish retry continue. The technician made some final adjustments, then glanced at his watch. Running on schedule, he muttered to a colleague. Valerian's people should be here with his presentation any minute. My heart pounded. This was it. The window Sarah had described. The system was set up but not yet loaded with Valerian's keynote. If I could just get to that laptop. The technician walked away to check on something at the podium. His colleague followed, engaged in conversation about lighting angles. The laptop sat unattended. I moved quickly but casually, pulling the USB drive from my bag as I approached the control area. My hands were steady, surprisingly steady, given the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I was 3 feet from the laptop when a voice stopped me cold. "Can I help you with something?" I turned to find a woman in a black suit, professional, alert, with the unmistakable bearing of security. Not conference security, something more serious. "Oh, hi," I said, forcing a smile. "Press. Just fascinated by the tech setup. I'm doing a piece on how these big presentations come together." She didn't smile back. "Press should be in the designated area. This is a restricted zone." "Right, of course. Sorry." I started to back away, my mind racing. The USB drive was still in my hand, hopefully obscured by my bag. "I'll just—" "Emma Rodriguez?" My blood turned to ice. She knew my name. "Yes?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "I'm going to need you to come with me. We have some questions about your credentials." This was it. They'd been watching, They'd flagged me. The plan was blown. But then, from somewhere in the ballroom, a fire alarm began to blare. The security woman's hand went to her earpiece, her attention momentarily diverted. "What's the situation?" She spoke into her radio. "Is this a drill?" In that moment of distraction, I made a decision. I lunged for the laptop, jammed the USB drive into the port, and clicked through menus as fast as my fingers could move. The security woman was turning back to me, reaching for my arm, but I'd already navigated to the video file. "Stop right there!" she shouted. I hit play, and then I ran. The security woman grabbed for me, but I twisted away, knocking over a light stand in my panic. It crashed between us, buying me precious seconds. I sprinted toward the exit, my heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe. Behind me, I heard shouting, footsteps, chaos. The fire alarm was still shrieking. People were evacuating the ballroom in confusion. I burst through a side door and into a hallway packed with confused conference attendees. The crowd worked in my favor. I dove into the mass of people, letting them carry me toward the exits. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Got out? Video is playing. Every screen in the ballroom. They can't stop it." I risked a glance back. Through the open ballroom doors, I could see the massive screens that had been set up for Valerian's keynote. But instead of corporate branding and welcome slides, they showed something very different. Documents, emails, technical diagrams, a calm female voiceover explaining exactly what Obsidian Systems had been planning, naming names and providing evidence. Sarah's video was playing, and hundreds of people were watching. Even better, I could see attendees holding up their phones, recording it, probably streaming it to social media. The cat was out of the bag. Part 11. Aftermath. I didn't stop running until I was 6 blocks from the convention center. I ducked into a crowded shopping mall and found a bathroom where I could catch my breath and think. My hands were shaking violently now. I'd actually done it. We'd actually done it. But what now? I pulled out my phone and checked the news. Nothing yet. It had only been minutes. But social media was already exploding. Videos from the conference were being shared and reshared, hashtags forming, hashtag Obsidian exposed, hashtag tech future leak, hashtag cyber warfare scandal. A message from Sarah. Meet at backup location. Don't go home. The backup location was a hotel room she'd rented under a fake name, paid for in cash. When I arrived, she was already there, laptop open, monitoring the fallout. "We did it," she said, looking exhausted but triumphant. "It's everywhere. Major news outlets are picking it up. Obsidian's stock is plummeting. The FBI has announced an investigation." I collapsed into a chair. "They know it was me. Security stopped me right before the alarm went off. She knew my name." "The alarm was me," Sarah admitted. "I pulled it when I saw you were in trouble. Figured chaos was our best option at that point." "Did they catch you?" "No, I was just another confused attendee evacuating. But you're right. They know about you now, which means you can't go back to your apartment. Not yet." "For how long?" "Until the heat dies down, or until Obsidian collapses completely." She turned her laptop toward me. "Look at this." It was a news article, just published. FBI raids cybersecurity firm Obsidian Systems following explosive conference leak. "They moved fast," I said. "They had to. The evidence we released is damning, and it's now public. Obsidian can't make this disappear. Their only option is to claim innocence and hope their lawyers can save them." "What about Dale?" Sarah's expression grew serious. "That's the tricky part. We haven't heard anything about him yet. If Obsidian is smart, they've already released him and are claiming he was never detained. But if they're desperate..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. If Obsidian felt cornered, Dale became an even greater liability. "We need to find him," I said. "You said you thought he was at a facility north of the city." "I have an address, but I don't know if he's still there. And even if he is, we can't just walk in and demand his release." "What if we tell the FBI where to look?" Sarah considered this. "That could work, but we'd need to do it in a way that doesn't expose ourselves immediately. We're safe, as long as we're anonymous whistleblowers. Once we identify ourselves, we become targets for what's left of Obsidian's organization. We spent the next hour composing an anonymous tip to the FBI, providing the address of the facility where Dale might be held, along with additional context about Obsidian's operations. Sarah sent it through a series of encrypted proxies that would be nearly impossible to trace. Then we waited. The news cycle moved with stunning speed. By evening, Marcus Valerian had been arrested at his home. Several other Obsidian executives were being questioned. The government client planning the coup was scrambling to deny everything, but journalists were already digging into those connections. Sarah and I ordered takeout and watched it all unfold on her laptop, barely believing what we'd set in motion. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Emma." Dale's voice, weak but unmistakable. "It's me." "Dale! Oh my God, are you okay? Where are you?" "Hospital. The FBI found me at that facility a few hours ago. His voice cracked. "I'm okay, mostly. They kept me isolated, threatened me, tried to make me tell them about all the copies of the evidence. But I didn't break. And now it doesn't matter because everyone knows. We were so worried." "I know what you did, at the conference. That was you and Sarah, wasn't it?" "Yes, Sarah's here with me now." "Put me on speaker." I did, and Sarah leaned in. "Dale, thank God you're safe." "You both took a huge risk," Dale said. "But you did it. You actually stopped them." "We're not safe yet," Sarah warned. "Obsidian still has people out there, people who might want revenge." "The FBI is offering me protection," Dale said, "and they want to talk to both of you. They need your testimony to build the case against Valerian and the others." "We'll come forward," Sarah said, "but not yet. Give it a few more days. Let the media coverage solidify. Let the public pressure build. Then we'll be safer when we identify ourselves." "Be careful," Dale said. "Both of you. What you did today, you saved a lot of lives, maybe thousands, but you also made powerful enemies." We talked for a few more minutes before Dale had to go. The FBI agents protecting him needed him for more debriefing. After we hung up, Sarah and I sat in silence for a moment. "Thousands of lives," I repeated. "You think that's true?" "Based on what Obsidian was planning? Absolutely. The coordinated attacks would have caused massive infrastructure failures. People would have died in hospitals without power, in accidents caused by traffic system failures, in the violence that would have followed the chaos." I thought about that. About all the people who would never know how close they'd come to disaster. People who would go to work tomorrow, drop their kids at school, go about their normal lives, unaware that a freelance writer and an investigative journalist had derailed a catastrophic attack. It felt surreal. "What happens next?" I asked. "We stay hidden for a few days. We monitor the situation. We make sure Obsidian is truly dismantled before we come forward. And then," Sarah smiled slightly, "then we write the definitive story of how this all went down together." "A collaboration?" "You helped bring down a criminal organization engaged in cyber warfare. That's one hell of a story, and it's yours as much as mine." Part 12. Resolution. 5 days later, Sarah and I walked into FBI headquarters together. The intervening days had seen Obsidian Systems completely collapse. More arrests, more revelations. It turned out the attack they'd been planning was even more extensive than we'd known. 6 countries, not 3. The coup plotters had been arrested by their own government. Several Obsidian contractors had flipped, providing evidence in exchange for lighter sentences. Marcus Valerian was being held without bail, facing charges that would likely keep him imprisoned for the rest of his life. The FBI agents who interviewed us were surprisingly sympathetic. They took our statements, verified our evidence, and assured us that we'd done the right thing, though they gently suggested that in the future we should come to law enforcement rather than orchestrating dramatic conference exposés. "In the future," I said, I plan to go back to writing about farmers markets and small businesses. The lead agent smiled. Somehow I doubt that. You've got a taste for the big stories now. He wasn't entirely wrong. After our FBI interviews, we held a joint press conference. Sarah did most of the talking. She was more experienced with media attention. But I stood beside her as she explained how Dale had risked everything to expose Obsidian, how we'd worked together to bring the evidence to light, and how critical it was for journalists and citizens to hold powerful organizations accountable. The response was overwhelming. Interview requests poured in. Book deals were offered. Someone even optioned the story for a limited series. But the best moment came 3 days after the press conference, when Dale was released from FBI protection and finally able to move freely again. We met at a quiet diner on the edge of the city, me, Sarah, and Dale. He looked thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under his eyes, but he was smiling. "I can't thank you both enough," he said after we'd ordered coffee. "When I gave you that flash drive, Emma, I never imagined it would lead to all this." "You did the hard part," I said. "You're the one who discovered what they were planning. You're the one who gathered the evidence." "And almost got us all killed in the process," Dale said ruefully. "I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I thought I was being clever, creating a backup plan. Instead, I put you in danger." "You saved thousands of lives," Sarah reminded him. "Maybe more. Yes, it was dangerous, but it was worth it." We talked for hours, about everything we'd been through, about the continuing investigation, about what came next. Dale was planning to relocate, start fresh somewhere Obsidian's remaining associates couldn't find him. Sarah was working on an extended book about the case. And me. "I'm not sure yet," I admitted when they asked about my plans. Part of me wants to go back to my quiet freelance life, but part of me keeps thinking about all the other stories out there, all the other corporations or criminals or conspiracies that need exposing. "You've got the instincts for investigative work," Sarah said. "If you ever want to collaborate again, call me." Dale raised his coffee cup. "To truth, and to people brave enough to tell it." We clinked our cups together, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace. Epilogue. 6 months later. I'm sitting in my new apartment, larger than the old one, in a better neighborhood, paid for with the advance from the book deal. My laptop is open, cursor blinking on a blank page. The article I'm supposed to be writing is about urban renewal projects. Perfectly respectable work. But my mind keeps drifting to an email I received yesterday from a former employee of a pharmaceutical company, claiming his employer is suppressing evidence about dangerous side effects. It could be nothing. It could be a disgruntled worker making false claims. Or it could be another Obsidian situation, another truth that needs telling. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. "Did you see the pharma email? Worth looking into?" I smile. Of course she got a similar message. Whistleblowers probably contact every investigative journalist whose name appears in connection with the Obsidian case. "Maybe," I text back. "Want to grab coffee and discuss?" "Already on my way. Same place as usual?" I close the document about urban renewal projects and open a new one titled Pharma Investigation, Preliminary Notes. 6 months ago, I was a freelance writer producing forgettable content for corporate blogs. Then my neighbor sent me a warning message, and everything changed. I learned that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they find the courage to act. I learned that the truth, once released, is impossible to contain. And I learned that sometimes the most important stories find you, rather than the other way around. Dale is safe now, living under a new name in a different city. Sarah and I are working on our second investigation together. Obsidian Systems no longer exists. Its assets seized, its leaders imprisoned or awaiting trial, its planned attack permanently prevented. And me? I'm no longer just a freelance writer producing content no one will remember. I'm someone who helped stop a catastrophe. Someone who stood up to powerful criminals and won. Sometimes I think about that Saturday morning when Dale's text appeared on my screen. "Get out of here if you want to live." I got out. We all got out. But more importantly, we stopped running. We turned around and fought back. And that, I'm discovering, makes all the difference. The end.